an old formula, Spencer Tracy and Clark Gable, two leading men who have different ways of going about things, and the contrast works.
This old town is getting gloomy, feel the cold winds blowing through me every day.
An American and an Englishman.
Wheels are turning into motion.
Two men approximately the same age. Two very wealthy, charming men.
So you had the byplay between the two characters.
I'd say it was the most glamorous series ever shot, really.
It was the idea of Lou, as I said before about Lou, that he wanted the double top. He wants star names.
Gotta get away.
Help me. I'm in serious trouble.
And you'd like to talk somewhere privately?
Well, come along with us. We have a nice private place you can speak.
The
key.
Give it off. Couldn't she stop, please, Dan?
All right. That's enough, Johann. How do you say it?
Taxamuxi.
Taxamuxi, Johann. Taxamuxi indeed. Thank you. Can I ask you a question, Your Lordship? Why do we have to break into your place?
All in good time, Daniel, all in good time.
I got Vic Show. We go chop. See you later, Alex.
I always wanted to make a buddy picture, so I was doing The Saint at the time, so I thought, well, why don't I do one episode that has a kind of a connotation of two guys working together.
Bob and I discussed the idea that they'd become the Persuaders, and we made an episode called The Executive Diamond with Stuart Damon, where Simon Templar has somebody who's going in the same direction as he, but in a different way.
We can't do anything to Boris, not yet. Right. Will you listen? Okay. I said listen. Okay, we have to do a little detective work before we can prove anything.
After we do the detective work, then we beat up His Highness.
To a pulp.
Where do we start?
Professor Flambeau.
Right.
I did the pilot for The Persuaders, which was ostensibly pretty much the last episode of The Saint.
Saint working with an American, and in this case he was a Texan oil millionaire.
It was a wonderful part. I had a lot of fun playing this Texas high roller.
So you had the byplay between the two characters.
You like a bad penny, you know. Who asked you?
Thought you were having trouble with the language.
Oh, listen, pal, I speak French as well as you do. That is the best opening pitch I've ever done in my life.
Well, if you speak French up well, what is French for? A great big fellow has come up and walked off with your girls.
I did this just as a trial run, and it worked fine, so I thought, well, now I'll really go ahead.
We used that plot as almost the template for The Persuaders.
I went up to Lou and I spoke to him. I told him what I thought we should do. I said we'd have Roger Moore as the Englishman, and we'd find an American actor as his mate.
The important thing was we had to get an American sale. We had to at least work towards getting a network deal. And the networks wouldn't give us the deal at the beginning unless we had somebody that was recognizable in the United States as a name. And obviously Stuart Damon, lovely guy that he was, hadn't yet made the big time in the United States.
I was extremely jealous. I really wanted to do that with Roger. I loved working with Roger.
I went to New York. I spoke to ABC. We approached Rock Hudson, who was our first choice. We couldn't get Rock Hudson. Then we approached Glenn Ford. Glenn Ford didn't want to come out of the country. I then went to ABC and said, look, we can't get these two actors. You give me a list of half a dozen actors and who would like to play opposite Roger, and we'll see if we can get one of them. Well, they gave us a list of half a dozen. One of them was Tony Curtis.
The biggest Hollywood movie star, not at the time, because I think he was going down slightly on some of his films. But when you some like It Hot and those films, fabulous films, and he was fantastic.
Lou called me and said, I want to see you in the morning, 7 o'clock. He said, I've sold the Persuaders. I said, well, where are you? He said, I'm in California. I said, I can't get to California. He said, no, I'm coming back to England. I said, well, could we make it 8 o'clock, Lou? 7 o'clock, I'm going to come in from Denham. He said, we'll make it 7:30. So I came in. He said, I've sold the series. I said, well, that's so slightly immoral, Lou. I said, I didn't want to do it. He said, well, look, he's just won the Queen's Award for Industry. He said, the country needs the money. Just think of your Queen. I said, you have to say more than that to persuade me, Lou.
Lou Grade, I think, enticed him when he said, maybe we'll get Tony to play that part. You've got to remember I had a lot of big pictures behind me then, Some Like It Hot, a whole slew of movies.
I'd not met Tony Curtis before we did The Persuaders, or before we started talking about it, and Lou asked Bob Baker and Terry Nation, who was the story editor, to go out and meet with him in Beverly Hills and discuss the way we were going with the series.
I said, come on aboard. So about 4 days later, they were at my house, and Lou Grade, in essence, told me about the Persuaders.
He said, great, I'd love to do it, and that's how we got Curtis involved in the show.
He wanted an American and an Englishman. 2 men approximately the same age. 2 very wealthy, charming men. Well, he didn't get that with Roger, but he got it with me.
Mr. Wilde, excuse me, sir, we're coming into Nice Airport.
Oh, I didn't know we took off.
And the day before Tony was due to come, he phoned me up from Los Angeles. He said, hi, Bob, how are you? I said, Tony, I've got a slip disc. Oh, he says, you want to look off? Listen, he says, I'm coming in tomorrow and I don't want any press to meet me. You know, I want to come in nice and quiet, have no problems and so forth. And as soon as I come in, I want you to, arrange a press conference and we'll talk. And I said, Tony, look, I'm on the floor, I can't move, I can't come to meet you at the airport tomorrow. He doesn't listen to what you say, he just says what he wants. I said, okay, Tony, come in tomorrow, I'll have someone meet you at the airport.
And Roger Moore was having his kidney stone sorted out in hospital. So the junior member of the company was delegated to meet Curtis at the airport. And Lou Grade had arranged for me, with the customs apparently, to meet Tony as he came off the plane, the other side of customs.
I didn't know quite how to put this. I said, Tony, don't bring anything in. Anything you want, we can get over here. I knew Tony's interest in the weeds, so I thought the last thing I wanted was any problems at the airport.
Anyway, I got to the airport and Tony came off the plane and he said, nice to meet you, and he had his wife with him. And I said, when we go through those 2 channels, red or green, if you've got nothing to declare, you go through the green. If you've got something, he said, what would I have to declare? I said, I don't know, maybe cameras or something. I said, I had a sinking feeling something was wrong. Anyway, we went through the green, and a dozen customs men jumped on us.
I was stopped. I had a little box of marijuana and a pistol. And they confiscated the pistol, and then they found enough grass to, for a dozen cigarettes or so.
Surreptitiously, Tony also offloaded, which I assume was some pep pills of some kind, and a bit of cotton wool, into my hand before they were discovered by the customs. Nobody knows about this story, by the way, and it doesn't matter now so many years later. But I was now stuck with a pocket full of a substance which could have been very embarrassing for me because my father-in-law at the time was a CID commander. And anyway, I said to the customs people, look, somebody's arrived to take Mr. Curtis's luggage, so can I just supervise the loading? He said, fine, no problem. And there's a young guy who was representing the guy whose flat Tony's going to stay at. So we're walking across the airport terminal, and this guy said to me out of the corner of his mouth, I said, what's the matter? He said, did they find shit on him? I said, not only did they find it on him, I said, but I've got some too. I said, and I'm going to pass it to you. He said, OK. So we got out to the car park, and we loaded the luggage, and I said to him, well, thank you very much, and I shook hands with him. And I shook hands with him, I passed over the cotton wool that contained the pills that had been handed to me, and off he went.
We managed to get a lawyer to appear for Tony in court, and the lawyer said how it's nice to have an American actor over here who says how nice the English police are and how kind everybody is and so on and so forth.
So they took me to the magistrate the next morning, and they were so nice. I said, listen, I'm a little nervous. I'm coming to a new country. I'm not a drinker, and I thought a few of these would kind of calm me down. And so I said, if I've offended anybody, I'm sorry. And the judge was so conciliatory, he charged me £50 and sent me on my way.
I paid the bill at the time because he hadn't got any money on him. You know, rich actors never carry money. I think I lost about 60p on the exchange rate.
You know, in retrospect, it was a nice thing to happen. You know, it was inoffensive and didn't mean a big deal, and there we were.
The important thing I would like to say is that actors often say that they have no responsibility other than what they put up on the screen. And this is a case in question where I totally argue against it, because he gave my address. He told people he was staying at my home. He didn't want to say he was staying. So I got his fan mail for about, several months all over the world. And I opened up some of it out of interest. And, you get schoolgirls saying, hey, Tony, it's great, we smoke shit and we think you're great and that. And you realise that these actors have a big influence on young people. And if their lifestyle is one that is not particularly conducive to what I would call decent, civilised atmosphere, then I think they're doing a rotten job. So I do think they have got a responsibility. Anyway, that was the story of Tony's arrival in England.
We had sort of discussions whether it was going to be called Friendly Persuaders, the Persuaders, but then there was a film called Friendly Persuasion.
I thought, well, we'll drop the word friendly, we'll just call it Persuaders, which actually was a much better and slicker title than Friendly Persuaders. But Friendly Persuaders kind of told you that they're going to be chums. Persuaders didn't tell you anything, so it was a better hook for us. So we chose that title. When it came to writing the pilot script, there was only one writer to approach, and we felt that Brian Clements was that writer. He wrote The Avengers. He had the right style. He had the right idea of setting up these two characters. We discussed it with him. He seemed to hit all the right spots, and we said, "Go ahead, write the pilot script."
At that time, he came to me and he said, "We want to do this show. Lou's got it, and he's got Roger Moore, and he's got Tony Curtis. And what we want to do is to put them together like a Starsky and Hutch, a Nitro and Glycerine, whatever, a buddy series. And we want Roger to be an English lord and Tony Curtis to be a rich American."
What is there about your face that causes so much trouble?
Well, I spent the entire night thinking about it. All I did was hurt my ego.
Your ego? Why?
Daniel, there is nothing about me that is worth all that endeavor.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. There must be some... As a matter of fact, you're right. You'd have to be out of your mind to want to be you.
It was just the idea of two men really persuading the opposition to think again.
Wait a minute.
I wrote for the strength of the people. I knew that Roger has a good sense of humour and looks like a lord anyway, and dresses well and is a clothes horse. And I knew that Tony Curtis was a kind of get-rich-quick New York guy, so that's the way I wrote him.
You've got to describe the two characters. I mean, Curtis played a tough, very rich guy who'd been brought up on the wrong side of the tracks in Brooklyn or the Bronx or somewhere, who was, holidaying in the south of France.
I wanted to express myself, and I wanted him to be out of America, and particularly out of New York. And I decided to make him a self-made millionaire, which gave him a little more impetus in terms of doing what he wanted when he wanted it.
Now, you can open them now. Look, beautiful.
Is that it?
Oh, that's it.
Well, what is it?
That's my little piece of England. My country cottage. It's beautiful, isn't it?
You actually bought it?
Well, I really stole it, you know. $20,000. It was like highway robbery.
It certainly was.
Roger was Lord Brett Sinclair, a titled gentleman who was obviously sophisticated and tough and a great one with the ladies.
Would you like to go to bed now?
Well, not particularly. Actually, I'd like to fence some more. Is there anybody in the household like to
Daniel,
fence
it's been a busy day.
Oh, come on. Where's your Look at this house. Oh, what atmosphere. I tell you, it must be wonderful living here.
For me, the handsomer the better. I broke their legs. Don't you see? Being a nice-looking guy myself, I'm speaking very straight out to you. You know, to be matched up against Roger Moore, I said, bring him on. You know, in fact, I made them very nervous because every girl that worked in a show, I made a point of getting to her. And they wanted some shows where only Roger would get to the girl. Well, if he had to go through me.
Listen, friend.
Do not call me friend. People might think you're serious.
Are you looking for a fight?
No. Are you?
Well, I wasn't, but I am now.
You have an endearing quality, honesty.
Yeah, inside or outside, huh?
I have a choice.
Yes.
Well, inside. There's no air conditioning outside.
That first fight sequence, I wanted to check out Roger.
Would you mind your own business? Sit down, my dear. It'll only take a moment.
I wanted to see how well, not trained, how good his reflexes were for doing stunts.
To the company I keep.
Because I knew we were going to be together for 20 months or something, so I needed to know, could he take a punch or could he throw a punch?
Never trust a friend.
So we started that, you know, with shoving, jumping out. I, having a background of that, found that I was able to shove him around, and then he started to fight back, and when he started fighting back, I knew that we would be able to adjust to that. So if you'll notice that in the Persuaders, that's exactly what it is. Roger started out very primitive and simple and quiet. By the time we ended that series, he was jumping on girls like I was. I mean, jumping in the cars like I was.
The whole purpose of the Persuaders was that here were two inept guys trying to solve crimes that the judge felt were overlooked by normal society. So our two inept heroes would become involved in all sorts of things. The judge was, I suppose, in the spy film, you call him the spy master. He would send them out on the job, so he would arrange for things to happen. He was the guy behind he was the guy pulling the strings.
One without the other is no good to me. It won't work without them both.
Why these?
They each have something, but jointly, like chemicals. Take two relatively harmless compounds, say nitro and glycerin. Mix them both together and you have a very potent combination.
I think the way Rosney Smith played it was, you know, he lent more to the Englishman. Knew he was going to have trouble with his two men.
How would you like 3 months in jail? My name is Fulton. I am a judge, or I should have said I was a judge. I have now retired, but don't let that mislead you. Without going into details, I do assure you I can promise you 3 months inside.
He makes it sound like we won first prize.
Yeah. 90 days, no option of a fine, no remission. I can arrange it. Or let us say I might arrange it.
Oh, yes, let's do say that.
Often.
Irrepressible.
Lawrence Naismith, who we cast as the judge, was a great actor. He's played in so many British films I can't even begin to remember the number of films he played in.
Lawrence was a very fine man. It took me 2 or 3 days to get to pronounce his name. In fact, one day he got so upset, he says, he doesn't even know my name. I said, I know what your name is, Schmuck.
Excuse me, your judgeship, but is his lordship coming?
Yes. It's an old family maxim. Never send a boy to do a man's work.
Well, I'll take your...
Wait a minute. You understand you are strictly on your own on this. I mean, we mustn't involve the American embassy.
Oh, they may take your passport away.
Here, drink this. It's later than you think.
Good luck.
After the deals were set and sort of signed with a handshake, although I'm sure that Tony had more than a handshake before he came over from America, the idea was that we would shoot, we'd base ourselves in the south of France, and we would shoot the exteriors for 6 episodes.
It was decided and scheduled that the first 6 episodes, which were set in France, that we'd do the 6 sequences of the episodes in France at the beginning of the location.
We flew down to Nice, and we were there for, if I can remember, I think we were there for about 8 weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, which was great fun.
There's a very different approach to production from The Saint to The Persuaders, because The Saint was pretty well studio bound. Practically every shot was shot in the studio. The unit went out a second unit went out to shoot location backgrounds. Actors very seldom went with them. The occasional shoot would be maybe on a weekend on the Sunday when the streets were not quite so busy, if we had London locations to do. But when it came to The Persuaders, we were determined to shoot on as much location as we possibly could, and we did.
Shines down on love. Gotta get away.
When we started in the south of France shooting, the cars were equal. I mean, you know, in power and strength. And it depended on how Roger or I would behave with it. And we kind of, it became a racing game for he and I, you know.
Yes, we did the car chase with Tony and Roger, with the Aston Martin and the Ferrari, which was great fun, great fun.
We had an Aston Martin and we had a Ferrari Dino. And once I knew we had those cars, it was just simple nature that you were going to have them race each other.
Gotta get away. So if you hear me knocking at your door, don't wait a minute more. Come out and join me, we just gotta try until we're flying.
I chose the Ferrari. I knew Roger would have an English car, so I decided the Ferrari was for me.
The Aston Martin was a great car to drive. I think I was much more fortunate than Tony. His was small and difficult to get into. The Aston Martin had a little more space. He had a Dino Ferrari.
Gotta get away. Once we're heading down the track, gotta get away. And there'll be no turning back. Gotta get away. Where the sky is blue above and the sun shines down on love. Gotta get away.
We brought down some of the cast from London that was going to work in the show. We were shooting out in a river, a dry river between Nice and Cannes that came from and Joan Collins was playing this part in this show.
You're not worried about Brett, are you?
Oh, he'll be here. He'll be here. We're going to rest here for a while.
Oh, promises, promises.
She was nervous. She had a mirror in her hand fixing makeup. How do I look? I said, you look great. You sure? Yes. She said, can we get the hairdresser here? I said, sure. Hairdresser! I'd yell out, and they'd come running up, fix her hair. Thank you, and they'd leave. How you doing now? She says, I'm ready. Okay. No, I'm a little nervous. How's my makeup? I said, well, it looks okay to me. I need the makeup man. I said, just makeup. Makeup would run all the way up, full with the makeup. And then he'd leave. And I was waiting for the assistant way down below. And he's waiting for me, a signal from me, to start rolling. So I had my arm out, waiting to do that, and I'm ready to run. She says, please don't let me, I've got to concentrate. I says, okay, concentrate. I'm ready. I says, okay. She said, no, wait. I said, will you stop acting like a cunt? Why don't we just get the shot? She said to me, what did you call me? I said, look, forget what I called you. I'm sorry if I... She leans out of the car and screams, he called me a cunt! That was the first episode we were shooting. Boy, was I in trouble.
But then all the other locations were done by a second unit, a two-man show, you know, with doubles. So, you know, when they went to Copenhagen or Paris or whatever, it was Arnie Ross, the location manager, a cameraman, an operator, and a couple of doubles.
The bulk was made here at Pinewood Studios, all the studio stuff. We shot a few times in Black Park, which is quite near to here, and odd locations, but most of the whole film was shot here.
Daniel! Daniel!
Danny.
Pinewood's got lovely gardens, and it really was, and the locations here are really excellent.
And we used the back lot in those days because there were lots of standing sets there, Spain, Italy and things like that.
Well, the show was, I suppose you would call it a glamorous show. We tried to get as many pretty girls as we could.
This is it. New songs arrivés. Next.
We tried to get them as well dressed as we could. We did deals with various stores to supply costumes for the shows free of charge, and then return them after we've done the various episodes.
I had different clothes on every scene. I thought an audience would be amused by that.
Nice color. I can't let you out alone.
Hi.
Here's your house. I gotta fix that. Well, this is the bathroom.
I know how important it is how people dress and look. So I thought changing my outfits within the continuity, I'm not allowed to do that. I've got to match. But after that, I was able to do what I want. So I'd wear sweaters and shorts and neat English gear.
And I supplied all the materials for my clothes to be made, and so then we thought, well, maybe I'll make a sideline out of this, and so we had Brett Sinclair's clothes designed by Roger Moore.
I had a suit made for every episode. So at the end of it, I had 24 plus suits. And then I'd start interweaving them. I'd use the jacket of one and the trousers of another, with a T-shirt or an open shirt. I like doing that. That was part of my work. That was part of Danny Wilde, and that was me.
He had an obsession with strange clothes at that time. I remember he used to go down and buy his own clothes in Chelsea for the next series. And it was always with a pair of kid gloves. And I really didn't ask him why. He just appeared with the gloves, so that was it.
I decided to wear gloves in every scene I was in. It was an idiosyncrasy, you know? There was Roger in his pinstripes and very British, and there I am sitting having dinner with gloves on. It's kind of an impudent thing to do, but I liked it for that, you know?
Well, I guess I might as well tell you. I've hired her as my butler, housekeeper, upstairs maid, cook, chauffeur, and
I came to
gardener.
meet you, I have come to expect your low, underhanded treachery. I won't say I'm angry, just terribly.
Tony and Roger worked quite well together on the set. There was no particular arguments between Roger and Tony.
We trust each other.
We do?
Tony on the screen could be charming, elegant, and you know, and whatever was required of him. But in real life, you know, he was a difficult man to handle, and I can't say I found the relationship particularly rewarding.
He would come in the morning in a very, very black mood. Nobody would speak to him. He would just grump and ground at people and go up to his dressing room, and he would come down about half hour later already, smiling and happy and kissing everybody.
Moods could vary from minute to minute. But if you walk on the set in the morning, you say, "Morning, Tony," you say, "Bullshit," you know. And his other favourite expression was, you talk about somebody, you say, well, "Fuck 'em and feed 'em fish." I never quite understand what that meant, but that was one of his expressions.
He would disappear into his dressing room maybe if he needed a top-up of whatever it was he was topping up with, but generally speaking, we got through the day.
Any time that Tony was about to blow his gasket or do something difficult, if Tony wouldn't say a line, he said, "I don't want to say that line, it's fucking line." Then Roger would jump and say, "Oh, don't worry, Tony, I'll say that line." See, so Roger always smoothed the path.
The directors had problems with Tony. The director would say, "You would come in through this door," and Tony would say, "Hey, why can't I come in through the French window?" And the director would spend half hour trying to explain to him why it was necessary for him to come in through a door and not through the French window. So there was all those problems.
I always felt that if he was a little bit upset with the director for some reason or other, he would try and push the director a little and maybe start before he was supposed to say a line.
Mr. Curtis, I said, I don't need to explain to you, he's another one of the awkward squad. We were going to do a shot where he had to appear on the top of a building, a very high building. It was at least 60 feet high, I think. It was shot at the studio, the back of the studios. And he had to climb up there. And he was talking around about the camera to the stuntmen, who presumably they were organising how they were going to do it and all this, and then when he appeared at the top and so on. And then they drifted away, and Tony was still around, but I just went round the camera and had a chat there for some reason or another as to what shot we were going to do and so on. And then I realised that he'd disappeared. And I looked around and I saw that he was at the foot of the drain pipe or whatever it was that he was supposed to climb up. And I remembered that he was one of those people who hated stuntmen. He always wanted to do his own stuff. And I very nearly panicked, but fortunately I didn't. I turned to the camera and said, "Turn them over. Quick, turn them." "What? Turn them over." "Right." And so they turned it over. And sure enough, he climbed all the way up and appeared at the top under the roof. And I thought, "You wicked bugger, you know, really, it's too much. Because he was trying. I think he was trying to left foot me. You know, he was trying to. Because I would have looked very silly, wouldn't I, if he'd done all that and then I'd said, "Oh, we haven't shot it." You know, that would be no good, would it?
There was a couple of things like with the director. I won't say the director's name, but he would always do a board and have matchstick men on it. You know, so all the day's shots was and Tony, first day, Tony Curtis went up and got this board and said, "I'm not a matchstick man," and threw it off the thing.
I'm pretty sure that Curtis himself wasn't particularly helpful. He was there, you know, it was the old story, he was getting paid on Friday on what the hell. That was about as far as it went, as far as he was concerned, I think. I can't understand really why he ever decided to come and do it.
You know, Tony Curtis, as I said, was a big star, had everything in Hollywood, and they're treated as such, and they become egomaniacs, I think is a word.
Some Americans who come over here feel kind of lost, and they feel like I'm the only American, and they become, no matter how important they are, and Tony Curtis has made some very good movies, they feel insecure, and their insecurities, particularly with actors, come out in kind of childish behaviour sometimes.
And all of those newspapers that loved all kinds of stories. I was a homosexual, screaming my way through town. I was a womanizer, I had girls stuck in every corner. I was a big gambler, lost a fortune every time I went to Las Vegas. I was cruel to my workers, people I worked with. Actors hated me. I didn't give a fuck.
The last funny story really on Tony was that there used to be a rite or some kind of strange thing on pictures years ago where the leading actor at the end of the film used to give presents to all the crew, you know, right down to the last guy. Very nice gesture, but it doesn't happen anymore today. And you don't expect it and don't want it necessarily. But on the last day of filming, I got a message that Mr. Curtis wants to see you in the dressing room. And my first reaction always is, oh, you know, what's wrong now? So I went up to the dressing room and walked in as usual. Tony, when you see Tony in his dressing room, he's either wearing just a jock strap or nothing at all. And he has granny glasses on the end of his nose. He's either drawing cubes on a bit of paper or building strange things in cigar boxes with bits of earth and twigs and stuff and that. So I walked in and I said, with apprehension, I said, "Morning, Tony, what's the problem?" He said, "No problem, pal. He said, I want to give you something." And suddenly I thought, my God, this is unbelievable. Obviously downstairs there's a convertible Mustang, or he's going to give me 2 tickets to Acapulco, all expenses paid. And, you know, I've misjudged this guy. And so he goes into the corner of the room and he rustles around in the box and he comes out with a bottle of white wine. And he said, "I want to write something special." And he writes, "To John, Tony." And so I walked out clutching this wretched bottle of white wine and a note. And I think if I remember correctly that about a couple of days later we got a bill from the studio restaurant for a crate of wine that he'd ordered on the company. So Roger is a different ball game. He's somebody that he may not be the greatest actor in the world, but he's certainly one of the most decent human beings I know in the world. And this shines through in his performances, and the audiences and the public all adore Roger.
The trouble was with Roger, he was such an easygoing guy, you had to be very careful you didn't take advantage of him. It was, you know, there's certain things one has to do for an artist, and sometimes you didn't do them with Roger, and Roger didn't say anything, but you knew you suddenly realised you'd overstepped the line. And he was the star of the movie.
Wanted you to help him as much as he helped you. I mean, during the whole series, I mean, Roger, because we changed directors so many times over the series, Roger would say to me, "Oh, can you watch to see if my eyebrows go up or go down?" And often, either the operator, Jimmy Davis, or myself would say, "There's a little bit over the top with the eyebrows, Roger." And we'd go again.
Roger was a really generous, warm-hearted guy. Tony was Tony. I mean, I wouldn't say he was particularly warm-hearted, but he was a
big Hollywood
movie star.
To call Roger an actor is wrong. Tony's an actor. Roger's a star. That's the difference. But the combination of an actor and a star together work perfectly.
Stop fooling around, pal. The action's upstairs.
Daniel, come on, let me out.
I haven't got the key. Melanie's got it, but back up. I'm gonna crash into the door and break it open like in the movies.
Don't do that.
Look out. Look out. I'm liable to hurt you.
Don't.
Oh, blimey. Wow.
You finished clowning.
I'm not clowning.
Tony and I had great respect for one another's space, one another's ability. Well, I think he did. I certainly did for his. You know, and he was a damn fine actor and a good comedian.
I was very impetuous. Once I knew what the line was, or once I knew what the intent was, I could do anything I wanted, and I would.
Welcome, good night. Dost I bring thy sword to aid the king?
Daniel, what on earth are you doing here?
How'd you know it was me? I'm here because you invited me.
I did?
Yes, you did.
When did I invite you?
When did you invite me?
Yes.
How many times have you said to me, why don't you come on out and spend the weekend with me? You must have said it 100 times.
Well, yes, of course
Well, I finally show up, so what? Well, here I am.
Any special reason for this particular weekend?
What special reason do I need? I'm your friend, right?
Well, of course you are, Daniel.
Okay, well, then I'm here to see your ancestral home.
Ancestral?
Ancestral home.
I think both of them ad-libbed quite a lot. Because it was a kind of a jokey thing between the two of them. And one would ad-lib and then the other one would come back with another line, which maybe wasn't in the script.
Tony's a very funny man. You know, great sense of humour, and so we could bounce off one another, and we did it in different ways. He became more like that, and I became more laid back.
Okay, come on, let me be navigated. Give me the map.
Thank you, Daniel. I remember the last time we went to Berlin.
So?
We were supposed to be going to Madrid.
Well, nobody's perfect, Ken.
Certainly not you.
And that's the kind of an actor I am, you know. I would do a scene different each time. And it kind of, I won't say it pissed him off, Roger, but it made him nervous, you know, because he needed that cue.
Tony is very good. I mean, there's no other question about it. His repartee, when it's written, is very good. He believes he's the great ad-libber. My experience working with both of them and knowing Roger more intimately is that Roger's the great ad-libber. Roger can come up with the cracks but Tony, when he's got the right lines to say, is obviously a great actor.
Now, you know what that is?
What is it?
That's a fireplace.
Really?
Yes. I'm going to clean that out, and I'm going to get a big leather chair here. And in the wintertime, when there's storm outside, I'm going to sit there with my old faithful dog at my side.
But, Daniel, you don't have a dog.
Well, then I'll rent one. I've decided that this is the place to be right now. Ooh, I got to show you upstairs. Come on.
There's more?
Oak beams. I got oak beams in the bathroom.
Oak beams? I can't wait.
But he began to see that by ad-libbing, you gave a scene a fresh and different view of how you should play a part, you know? And for me, that's the only way the function can work. You must be able to bring a spontaneity to whatever the work you're doing.
I think Tony Curtis never did the same thing twice, and hardly ever said the same thing twice. You know, so it drove the continuity girls absolutely nuts. You know, it's like so. You know, and then Roger would be mucking around a lot. So, you know, it's a bit of a madhouse, but great fun.
Our first showing of The Persuaders was in Australia, and it was an absolute smash there. It went to #1 and stayed at #1 throughout the entire series. And whenever we played it, it would really hit the top spot.
Because we had a telegram from Lou Grade after the show had been finished. We opened in Australia. We're #1, so we would, congratulations, a great show, and you get very excited thinking, hey, #1 in Australia. And already we were way up the list in England. We were #2 or 3 in England. So we expected to really make the big time in America. And the sadness was, we didn't.
But I don't think maybe at that time we weren't the right formula. Unlike France, Germany, Spain, Scandinavia.
We should have been a bigger success, and my little financial investment in the show would have turned into something where I wouldn't be sitting here now. But unfortunately, America, which is the only place where it matters, where the big money is, when we got to the States, we had 2 shows against us. I think we were on NBC, and either on CBS or the other one we had Mission Impossible against us, which is a well-established American show, and the other network put on the Movie of the Week.
ABC did not have that heavy a Saturday night lineup. So we came in without anything to help us, and so then they got nervous and they moved us to a Wednesday night, and again against something well-established and popular.
Plus the fact it's British tongue-in-cheek humour, and America, I don't think, was quite ready for that. They followed it later on with series in a similar vein, but not after 4 or 5 years.
Even if we hadn't had made the big success we thought we were in America, Lou was prepared to finance another series of The Persuaders, but by that time, Roger had been grabbed by the scruff of the neck to be the next James Bond.
We did it for a year. Then Roger got the call, as we expected, to play James Bond.
In fact, I remember one Monday morning Roger coming up to me and saying, "You'll never guess." I said, "What's that, Roger?" He said, "I'm going to be James Bond." That was on a Monday morning. And he just heard from, I think, Cubby Broccoli at the time, that they wanted him to do it. So he was very pleased.
Lou said, "But let's cast somebody else. Let's have someone else to step into Roger's part." I said, "Lou, it's going to be very difficult to find someone to replace Roger, because the chemistry that those two had worked out was perfect. You alter the chemistry, you alter the show. It's not the same thing."
There was talk of, I think it was Noel Harrison. When Roger couldn't do it, I think Lou talked about Noel Harrison, but I don't think any of us felt it would work. And as Bob would say, I think Tony would have eaten him alive for lunch.
I said, it won't work. I said, why don't we quit while we're ahead? We've made a very good show. That's it. Let's stop it now. And Lou said, I guess you're right. And that's why we never made any more Persuaders.
I wish we'd made more. It would have been great.
I know it's a long time ago now, and there have been some wonderful TV series shot, but of its time, it was, I think, the best.
They don't seem to make entertainment shows now. They're looking for inner meanings and drama and moods and atmosphere and so forth. We don't want that. We just want to make a total entertainment for the family.